So what happened to King James? Christian metal friends, Pastor Brad here, and today we're going to answer that question. We're going to dig into the history of this band, a Christian hard rock band that many termed a supergroup, formed by some of the most iconic names in Christian hard rock and metal. If you've ever jammed a Whitecross, or Striper, you're in for a treat. Because King James brought together some serious talent from both of those bands to form a powerhouse melodic hard rock metal band for the ages. In this video, we're going to learn how, when, and why King James formed. We're going to explore the highlights of their brief but impactful stint. And finally, I'm going to do my best to bring some clarity to why the band came to an end and where its members are today.
Rocking you up for Jesus Christ with classic style hard rock music and practical Bible teaching.
King James as a band was born in 1993, the brainchild of Rex Carroll, the legendary virtuoso shredding guitarist of Whitecross. In an interview with Area 312, Rex Carroll talks about the circumstances that led to his departure from Whitecross in the 93-94 period and the subsequent formation of King James.
Well, Scotty and I have had a very difficult kind of a shotgun marriage relationship. We have different views on things, kind of like, Paul and Barnabas, and eventually, they both ministered the gospel, but they just went different ways. So some of that, and the specific trigger at the time was my daughter she went for her 3-year-old checkup, and the doctor goes, "Oh, you hear this little murmur in her heart?" Next thing you know, we're visiting a cardiologist, and the next thing you know, she's getting open heart surgery to repair a valve that wasn't closing properly. And without the surgery, it's like, well, she won't survive past her teenage years unless we get this surgery done now. So we did the surgery. Everything came out great. Thankfully, she's fine now. But it came at a time where there was a lot of stress in the group. It's like, guys, I can't do this next tour. I have to be home with, my daughter is getting this surgery, so I have to be around. This is too much. So I was burning out. We were all burning out. So we needed a break, and that was like a specific trigger. And so then Scotty went on his way, and he did his thing with the band, and I went into King James.
Rex Carroll and vocalist Jimi Bennett shared a vision for creating something new, a blending of their love for 80s style melodic hard rock and metal with powerful, inspirational, uplifting lyrics. Here's a little tidbit of what I think is very interesting trivia about the band. When I hear the band name King James, I instantly think of the King James Bible or the King James from England. And of course, that's kind of an unavoidable part of the meaning, but the name actually comes from the combination of Rex and Jimi. Rex means king, and Jimi's formal name is James. To round out the lineup for King James, Rex and Jimi recruited the rhythm section from Striper, Robert Sweet on drums, and Timothy Gaines on bass. With this supergroup lineup, King James released their self-titled debut album in 1994. The debut album featured a mix of hard-hitting melodic rock, and softer AOR-style ballads.
Love is gonna find you, one step behind you.
The blend and really overall softer vibe was a little bit surprising and, being honest, a little bit disappointing to the expectations of fans. Songs like Prisoner,
I'm a prisoner of love.
highlighted Jimi Bennett's more classic rock style vocal. Despite the somewhat mixed reaction to the release of the album, the band hit the road. Robert Sweet participated in that first tour, but Timothy Gaines opted out. So Benny Ramos was asked to join the band, and he took over the bass playing duties on that tour. By 1996, Robert Sweet also departed the band, leaving Jimi and Rex as the core duo. In 1997, King James, now comprised of Rex Carroll on guitars, Jimi Bennett on vocals, Benny Ramos on bass, and Michael Fagan on drums, released their sophomore album, The Fall. This album marked a significant shift in style for the band, diving into the darker, more gritty, grunge-influenced sound of the 90s. Tracks like Never Is Forever, and Borrowed Time displayed heavy groove-based riffs with down-tuned guitars, and drew comparisons to secular bands like Stone Temple Pilots. While the album did not receive a massively warm welcome upon its initial release, it did develop a bit of a cult following, especially after it was remastered and re-released by Retroactive Records in 2010, bringing a more polished edge to Rex's guitar work, and it gave fans an opportunity to rediscover the album's depth. After the release of The Fall, the band entered a long hiatus period. Rex Carroll rejoined Whitecross.
And then in the year 2000, Whitecross came back together at the Cornerstone Festival.
And Jimi Bennett pursued a new project called Victor with former Petra drummer Louis Weaver. It seemed like King James might be finished, but the story wasn't over yet. In 2013, the band made a surprising return with the release of a new album, Maximus, a collection of new King James material and re-recordings of some past King James songs, performed by the new lineup of Rex Carroll on guitar, Jimi Bennett on vocals, Michael Fagan on drums, and Benny Ramos on bass, and those two had not been part of the first album. Maximus resurrected a heavier, more blues, melodic, hard rock sound for the band, a sound that was much more appealing and warmly welcomed by the fans. Songs like Waiting for the King,
Waiting for the king to come.
and Blackstone Woman
Blackstone woman, hanging by a thread. Too many voices in your head.
showcased soaring vocals, catchy melodies, and Rex Carroll's signature guitar solos. Today, as of the recording of this video, Jimi Bennett remains active in music and ministry. He's involved in leading worship, performing, and sharing messages of hope and testimony about his faith in Jesus Christ. He also continues to record music and collaborate on various projects. You can learn more about what Jimmy is up to at his website, jimibennett.com. The rest of King James, Rex Carroll on guitars, Michael Fagan on drums, Benny Ramos on bass, have connected with new lead singer Dave Roberts, replacing Scott Wenzel in a freshly revived version of Whitecross, and they're sounding awesome. Despite their sporadic activity and lineup changes, King James indeed carved out a unique spot for themselves in Christian hard rock and melodic metal history. The band's mix of powerhouse guitar riffs, classic hard rock anthemic vocals, and Christ-honoring lyrics absolutely resonated with a dedicated fan base. They may not have been as prolific as Whitecross or Stryper, but for fans of Rex Carroll and Jimi Bennett, King James remains a beloved project, embodying the enduring spirit of Christ-honoring 80s style hard rock and melodic metal music. Keep your eyes on Jesus, friends.